Today, I have a really interesting topic. I think this topic will be very helpful for new people that want to sign up on the platform. And because a lot of our members, I would say, are above 30, 35, so sometimes you find that majority or well, a lot of our members do fall into this category. So I feel like this topic is just really necessary. Today's topic is if you're divorced and want to sign up on the platform, the things you should know about. So hopefully this actually would educate people on what to expect signing up for the platform if you're divorced and what not to expect basically. And all this advice are coming from obviously just the experience from talking to people on the platform, from actually working with people on the back end. This advice comes from all those. So it comes from a lot of people's personal experience on the platform. So hopefully this could help one or two people before you sign up on the platform. So the first thing you want to do if you're divorced and single and want to sign up on the platform, the first thing you should ask yourself is, have I healed? Very important question. Have you healed? Because you want to make sure that you've actually healed. Healing is very important because I've seen some people actually self-sabotage. You know this feeling where it's like, this is too good to be true. There has to be something wrong with it. So I'm going to try and find a way to make sure that I find whatever is wrong with it, or I find something wrong with this before I get too deep. Some people don't want to get attached to somebody else because they're not done healing. And so they self-sabotage certain things, or they are like red flag hunters that are just looking for anything that resembles a red flag. And they're like, oh yes, okay, yes, I said it. It was too good to be true. So you find this happen a lot in different situations. So sometimes it's because someone hasn't healed properly. And so they're dating, but they're not healed. They just feel like they need to go into a relationship, which isn't the case. You need to take time, heal from your previous relationship before you go out there and try to date again. The second advice I have for singles that are divorced that want to join the platform is to remove all unrealistic expectations. Okay, so with matchmaking and stuff, it's not magic, it's not jazz, it's not poof Cinderella and you just, meet someone and you get married next week. It's not an immediate situation like that. So whatever your expectations are, like, okay, by next week I'm going to walk down the aisle, just kind of take a step back. Make sure your expectations are realistic. Like, ask yourself, is this achievable? The third advice I have is remind yourself what it was like to date. Because if you're single and divorced, it's likely that you were married for a while and didn't date dates, in the actual sense, like meet new people, go on actual dates. So remind yourself what it was like to date so that when you go on dates, you actually do have a good time. Some people go on dates and turn into an interview session where they have a list and they're trying to make sure that you actually, match a lot of things on their list. So they're like, yes, check, you might have forgotten what it's like to date. So remember what it was like to date, especially in your 20s, because as you get older, of course, you have more experiences and those affect the way you date. Recently, I spoke to a lady and she was like, dating has been so annoying. And I'm like, I don't understand, explain to me. And she's like, when she goes on dates, for the first 10 minutes, she can already tell like, this is not who I'm going to marry. I'm like, is that how you dated in your 20s? Because I don't think that's how people really dated. What I remember, I think people dated mostly like, I just want to get to know this person. Let's see how it goes. This person said, come, let's go on a date. Let's just see how it goes. It was more of a lighter note, but now it's a matter of we're walking down the aisle or nothing else. Like if we're not walking down the aisle, like if I don't see us walking down the aisle in the first 10 minutes, this date is a mess. Like it's just not working. So there's too much pressure when you go on first dates these days. It's just because of your experiences, obviously being divorced and dating in the past. You've had so many experiences and you carry them on your shoulders. It's heavy, and so you go on dates with all these experiences. But try and remember a simpler time when dating was just really dating. So you get to enjoy it. You don't go there with a list mentally. You don't go there searching for red flags. Just try and remember a simpler time in dating. So let me give a recap before I go to the next two. So the first one was, have you healed? You need to ask yourself if you've healed. The second one was remove unrealistic expectations because that could lead to disappointment and more. And the third one was remember what it was like to date. I had to do a whole new video just on this fourth point. That's how important it is. This fourth point or fourth reason or thing to look out for before you sign up on the platform if you're divorced and single. So this fourth point is so important. It's be realistic about your level of attractiveness. It's the most important part. Like, I had to do a separate video just on this topic because that's how important this topic is, and it touches every single aspect. Being realistic about your levels of attractiveness is yes, there are people that have really good high self-confidence. Some people are not so confident. So this is not based on your internal feeling of yourself, which usually is what people tell you, right? That's what it's based on, right? But this time, this is just based on outer people's perspective, which is not what you should focus on in life. I'm just saying that this part, what I'm talking about right now, is based on outer people's perspective. So it's like when you go for a beauty pageant, how people can just say, oh, she's beautiful, or she doesn't look as pretty as this girl. It's people's opinions, but that's how pageants are kind of like, they decide on a winner based on other things, including the physical look. People are quick to scream, oh, your level of attractiveness isn't that important. It's what's on the inside. But obviously, before people get to know what's on the inside, they look at the outside, and you have to be realistic about that as well. The same way there's that video online that people are showing their parents' picture of a kid, of a baby, and saying it's their friend's baby, and trying to see what the parents, or how the parents react, trying to see the reaction of the parents. And this prank or whatever is based on the fact that that child's picture, the baby's picture, or the picture of the baby is not cute. It's not a cute or a pretty picture of a baby. That's what that prank is based on. So if people can universally agree and say, oh, this isn't a cute picture, this isn't a cute baby, and we can use this for a prank, like, this isn't a cute baby, so let's see how people react to this picture. So if people can actually say, okay, give on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you grade the physical attractiveness of that baby, or the physical look of the child, of that baby's picture? People could usually say 0, 1. You wouldn't be mad at that, right? People are allowed to have their opinion, and they're universal opinions. Like, there's a picture that you put out, then everybody will be like, oh my goodness, this person is really good looking. And there's some pictures you put out that people are like, oh my goodness, this person's ugly. And this is just what the majority of people, it's the universal, let's call it the universal scale. So be realistic to yourself what your level of attractiveness is on the universal scale. The fifth thing to think about before signing up on the platform, if you're divorced and single, is don't compare your dates to your ex. So if you get matched, for example, don't compare that person to your ex. If they have the same name, I know that might be weird, and don't look for things to compare. How maybe you dated someone that was very friend happy, always hanging out with his friends, taking advice from his friends or her friends. She's always like with her friends, always saying, my friend said this, she said I should do this, always taking advice from friends. And then you meet someone new, and the person is like, yeah, what are you doing on Saturday? And the person's like, well, I think I'm just going to hang out with my friends, spend time with them, boys time or girls time. In your mind, you're just like, oh, this is too much like my ex. You immediately bring up the red flag. So don't do that. Don't compare people to your ex. And this is a bonus one, I would say. The sixth thing to think about before signing up on the platform, if you're divorced and single and thinking of going on dates, is to not talk about your ex on the dates. Yeah, it could be positive. It could be like, oh yeah, it just didn't work out because this and that. But sometimes it could also bring up some emotions that you're trying not to bring up, or it could just make you a little bit emotional, or you might bring it up in a negative way. It's just a good topic to stay off, So those are the 5 things that you should think about before coming on the platform if you're divorced and single. Number 1, make sure that you've healed. There are different healing platforms, boot camps. I might put some in the description box. Make sure you've healed. Secondly, just remove all unrealistic expectations. Don't expect to go down the aisle next week. No. And thirdly, remind yourself of what it was like to date, because now you have extra stories and interesting things that have happened to you and also may affect the way you date. So try and remind yourself what it was like to date. And the next one is be realistic about your level of attractiveness. So there's a universal level of attractiveness, and just be realistic to yourself, not to the public, just to yourself. And the next one is, do not compare people that you meet to your ex. So if you meet new dates, matches, don't compare them with your ex or to your ex. And also avoid talking about your ex. I tried to make this as brief as possible just so all the points could just get in there. But I really want to make a longer video because I want to be able to talk about the experiences people have had, the experiences of certain members, you know, to talk about that, because I think that would be more helpful, because I kind of see the same things happen a lot of times. If one thing happens like 4 or 5 times, it's kind of like a pattern, like why is everybody doing this? You know, so it helps to kind of talk about those things, because it's helped me. Like a lot of things happening and I look at myself and I'm like, do I do this thing as well? You know, so I kind of want people to have that insight as well. Like talk about things that a lot of people experience on the platform, so it could help you yourself or anybody, you know, to also look at themselves. So hopefully send this to any of your friends that are single, divorced, and want to come on the platform to kind of just know a few things just before coming on board.